Hello, and welcome to another episode of Amon Sheeran's Pirate Radio. Today we have our first guest of the calendar year, my high school teammate, Jack Robbins. Jack, thank you for doing this.
Let's go. I'm excited to be here. This is a lifelong achievement of trying to get on the pod. I'm jealous that other people got the invite before me, but I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, better late than never. Is this your first podcast?
I did one for a company that I worked for, which was really boring. So hopefully this one is
I think it's a low bar for me to clear, so I'll take that.
If we're more interesting than hiring analytics, we'll be.
Yeah, let's hope so. So, like I said, Jack and I were teammates at Syosset High School. He was a year under me. And yeah, we were teammates, but competed against each other or with each other, track and field, cross country. So, when you were younger, what first made you decide to join the team and start running?
Yeah, so I'd say I was definitely someone who was kind of a lifer and that I started early. I remember running first in like seventh grade with Coach Myers. I think he's like the dean of Southwoods or something now.
He could easily be, yeah.
And I kind of did it I remember doing it originally cross country because like I thought that running in the woods sounded cool. That was like my first thought. And we did it with, so like all of like my village guys. So like Ty Italiano, Bill Hev, Ryan Anderson, like we all kind of joined together. So like those are all guys I like were kindergarten with. And I think it's kind of weird that like an entire friend group joined a sport. Like I don't think that happens.
No.
Because we were all really good friends before track. And obviously we added a lot more people, but like we were all friends before we even started. And we all kind of did it. We were really bad at the beginning. Like no one was good in like seventh grade. And then like in eighth grade, some of us started to get okay. Like Ty and I were like kind of good, but like still pretty bad. But they kind of just let anyone who wasn't just terrible could run on, because it wasn't really running. They called it running on varsity, but it was really just running with the freshman team a year up. So after eighth grade cross country, like me, Ty, and even Anderson, who was terrible like back then, like I don't think like none of us had even broken 6 in the mile in eighth grade in the fall cross country. We ran like 6:13 or something, like really slow for 1 mile, and we still got the call up. But that's when I think everyone started to kind of get addicted, because you join that initial like calf group where like
Right.
you kind of just, it's kind of like the best where like you don't really train that hard. He's like the most supportive, nurturing guy. You're super young, so every single time you race, you PR for the most part, and like if you don't, like no one cares. So that's kind of how that was like the eighth grade, and then like ninth grade. I still think ninth grade is like one of the most fun years. I'm sure like your experiences are like that too, because we always have like really good freshman teams.
Right. Absolutely.
You're one of like the decent freshmen, and then you also have the guys that are younger. So like my freshman team, like it was like me, Ty, and then we also had Will Long and Miles Conforti before he got fat. So like we actually we were pretty loaded. We like beat St. Anthony's at Jim Smith or whatever, and they had like the Tucker twins, who they came they came in like 1-2 and ran like a minute faster than like anyone on our team. But like their third guy, it was like a 3-man race, because that's the freshman. Their third guy was like really slow. So like we got like, and it doesn't matter about time. So we got like 4, 5, 6, even though we were a minute behind their 1-2, and like we still won. So I think that's like, if you're like kind of decent and then like you have calf, like that's a recipe where everyone kind of just falls in love with it.
Yeah, it's definitely a recipe for success, because like you said, you can improve dramatically every time, and it's no sweat if you don't PR, but you could easily PR cross country or even in the mile by like 15 seconds plus pretty easily. And calf just builds that momentum. And then so talk about the track season and continue into your sophomore year. How did that go?
Yeah, so that was I guess my early track career was like very linked with like Ty. Like we used to like run together and like train together, and like because there were a lot of random guys that ran up in eighth grade winter, but then eighth grade spring it was just Ty and I. And then I didn't do summer training, Ty did, and Ty got a lot better that summer. So we were both like pretty solid for like freshman cross country. And then I hurt my back or some bullshit in like the winter. And that's when Ty got like really good, was that winter. So I came back in the spring and we had both run like 5:03 and 5:04, like a second off in the fall of cross country, like at a random mile time trial between
Right.
races. By the time that I came back, like he famously ran like 4:40 at Warwick as a freshman, which was like a really big deal. And then so I started off pretty slow because I didn't train that much, but then I ran like 4:54 or something at like the Hewlett Invitational my freshman year. So
very
like,
good for a freshman still.
yeah, no. So it was that was like weird for me because I was kind of like ninth grade and like eighth grade. I was kind of like the poster boy, and I was like the most talented guy. And like again, it was really fun because like we weren't really training that hard. Like but cross, I actually like I remember because Calf had like a bunch of records as like a freshman for cross country, and then like underratedly guys like DePinto, because DePinto was good way earlier than like Ty was. Like DePinto as a freshman, he was running like
we both got he was running varsity as a freshman, but we both got moved up as seventh graders.
Yeah, so like and like he was good like early. So
right.
he like so because I remember I broke like the freshman record at like Van Cortlandt for like the 2K or something, and it was a soft record because guys like DePinto just didn't even run that race because he was like in the VAR. But like so I was like getting like a lot of like accolades or whatever because like I was in like that weird scenario where I was like good enough to beat and like win all the freshman races. But then I came back and like Ty was just better than me. So that was like an interesting dynamic. And that's when we started to add like random guys that were also good. Like Bill Hebb was kind of good back then. He got worse, but he was kind of decent. And then like that's still when Will Long and Miles were really good.
Very
like,
good. Yes.
Miles lost me by like a second in that 4:54 mile. So he ran like 4:55. And Will Long was like a 4:48 guy. And we also, again, it's really funny thinking about it. Like, again, this is so long ago, but we also had like Ty Tarnowski and he ran like 4:45. So we had like 6 or 7 guys who were freshmen or younger that were under 5. And some of them, like both the Ties, were like significantly under 5. So like coming off that, like, I mean, your year was loaded as well, but we like our year and your year were probably like two of the most loaded like young classes.
For sure. And yeah, it's really funny to look back on who's fast and who got slower, like you said. But talk about
like Xander and Bill Anderson like weren't even in the picture yet. And right. Those two guys who would later become All-Americans, and like they didn't exist. Xander was playing lacrosse. And like Bill Anderson's first year, he was slow as shit. I don't really remember what happened and how he got quicker, but he was like really bad. Like he was like a Dawson level guy back in the day.
Right. Yeah. Bill Anderson's a mystery of how he does anything really, but he's obviously very talented and able to succeed. And yeah, those guys weren't even in the picture, and then to like end up being two of the best guys in the class on top of what you already stated about the guys who are fast. Talk about the tradition from going from CAPS training into CESA's training.
Yeah. So this is, well, I want to preface this that like, so it's funny that we're talking about this stuff because I don't think I talked about most of this stuff for like what, like, so when we graduated high school, I feel like this is all we talked about. We talked about like CAF versus CESA, and like my first year of college, I remember anytime that I went home for like Thanksgiving or fall break and I get chipped with the guys, like all we would talk about is like, do you remember this race or do you remember that race, or like who is better, like CAF or CESA? Can't say I really thought about this like
in a while.
It's funny that like I used to like totally consume my life was like crazy hypotheticals like this. So it's fun to go back. But I was definitely in the CESA camp where I think CAF was like the best for like the freshmen.
Younger kids, right.
Yeah. And because I also had the weird experience of where after CESA got fired and then CAF became our coach so we had the CAF on the bookends. But I thought for better or worse, CESA definitely brought the best out of me. And was he like someone who yelled a lot? Like I've told this story a lot, but I'll tell it again. My best CESA story of him yelling at me is when we ran the Froschoff DMR at Laux. Not that like big of a deal or whatever, but like it's kind of cool, and like never run a DMR before. And I'm running the 1200 leg, And if you remember like Marco Pompige or
Uh,
whatever.
Pompillage, yeah.
Yeah. That's just, I don't know how to pronounce it, but like
Right.
that guy was a fucking animal. He ran like 4:18 as a freshman. Like
Yeah,
he
it
was,
was from collegiate. Yeah.
yeah, guy was a stud. So I'm in the 1200 heat with that guy, and like I don't even know who's who at that point. This is like I would later learn. I think like my goal for the day was to like run like 320 or something. I don't even know what that
That
even.
sounds about right. Yeah.
And so I just remember getting out and like it's 3-lap race. First lap, Sessa's like right at the 100 meters, and he told me to get out hard, but like Marco took it out like really hard. So like I ended up being like at the back of the pack. Sessa just looks at me and goes, "You lost the race." So that's all he said. He said, "I'm 90 meters in," says, "You lost the race." I'm like, also like I'm a freshman. Like I'm what, like 12, 13
13,
years
14.
old. I'm like 5'6", 100 pounds, like whatever. And then I come around again and he screams, "You look like a 520 miler," which I guess is an insult. But like that was what he chose to say. And then on my last lap, he goes, "How could you do this to your teammates?" That that was
Still with 300 meters to go, by the way.
yeah. And I finished the 1200 in 3:21. So I don't know like what he was looking for, and like maybe I didn't run the most competitive race. But then he has the all-time Sessa move though. So that's like I'm gonna kind of juxtapose like that's
Right.
like bad Sessa, where like he does like that's not helpful, right? Like just
No.
middle of the race, like it's not gonna help anyone. But so this is just like he's like Littlefinger, like he has these like schemes of things he does. So he goes, so there was a senior DMR. We had 2 Froschoff DMRs and there was a senior DMR. And on the bus, we were kind of thinking like there were only 3 guys for the senior DMR on the bus. And we weren't sure like who was the 4th because they didn't have a 400. Like it was like Bertrand and Nick and some like other, like it was like a pretty legit DMR. I think like we had Simon as like the 800 leg or something.
Right.
And so he'd bring us all over. He hates like everyone he thinks ran poorly. Xander, Mo Duji, like name a freshman, like they all ran terrible in Seth's eyes. And he goes like, I can remember it to this day. He huddles us up in like a circle and he goes, like, I don't know any of you are math majors, but if you counted, there's only 3 guys on the senior DMR. And he's like, you guys have 15 minutes before that race goes off. I need one of you to run the 400 leg.
Ooh.
And it was just, everyone had run terrible. No one, think about like how little cool downs I've done in my life, but like a freshman cool, like I don't think I did anything.
I don't even know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and again, the race is going off in 15 minutes. Like the seniors are like I don't know what the seniors were thinking because they just didn't have like Tessa must have told them they were going to pull like one of us. And like, he literally just like, he's going down in a circle, just like shitting on every single person. He's like, Xander, like soft race, like Duji, like you can't run. Like he's going and just shits on everyone. He's like, I need one person to step up. And like, for whatever reason, like that motivation worked. And like, I was the guy that chose to step up. And he's like, whatever happens, he's like, you better get out hard. And I was like, okay. And I was a freshman. I don't even think I've broken
60
before.
Right.
And I went out and again, these are like Sessa splits, so they're definitely fake. But right. I think I ran, according to him, the first 100 was like 12 high, and then I came through at like 26 mid, and then came back. And so this is the Laux senior like DMR. So they're like guys running 50 low. So like I'm just all out, like trying to hang on or whatever. I think I came back in like 32 high in the last 200 and ran like 58 or something. And which was like a 2-second PR or whatever.
At least.
But, and like in my head, I didn't even run that well, but like he was so happy, like whatever that was, he was just so happy. And like, he didn't care about times. He was just like, you ran the first part of the race tough. And like, that's what I cared about. And like, again, did he say anything encouraging me to whatever in that 1200? No. But did like that like second race experience mentally toughen me up for future races? I really think so. So like was again, very Littlefinger-esque, where he had all these schemes and he's pulling strings, and like he even had a plan from the beginning to not even have a freshman, like to have a freshman in this. Like, was he expecting everyone to run poorly? Like, I don't even know what his plan was, but it was always somewhat angry and it always somewhat worked.
Yeah, you can never put anything past him. Always a method to the madness. Littlefinger-esque, like you said. I love the Game of Thrones reference, but he was really the master of disaster. You would you would never be able to tell the plan from the athlete's perspective, but he always did have a plan. And 90% of the time, he
Also, the number one thing I'll give him credit for is, and maybe I'm giving him too much credit, is that he always believed in you so much that that's where a lot of his anger would come. Like,
right,
I've had a lot of experiences at this point, right? Where like high school, college, law school, like different jobs, like I still don't think I've met anyone that like believed in me as much as Bart Sessa did. I can still remember our like sophomore exit interview or whatever I did. And he's like, there's no reason why you can't run 420 in the mile and like be a D1 runner. Like, and like that was our exit meeting. And that wasn't things that I thought about, but he was like, there's no reason why you can't do that. And he's like, you'll be disappointing if you don't do that. And like, and I think he believed that. Like, so he always had like, and that wasn't for me, just like every single person, he was like, I see a version of you where you're going to be great.
right. And that's why he would get so disappointed because he knew how highly we could perform. That
Yeah, or maybe he was really angry. But I think the
right,
most terrible interpretation is that like, whenever you race poorly, he had the standard for you that was really high, and he knew you could hit it.
right. So looking back on your high school career, what would you have done differently?
Yeah, so this is one of those questions where like, again, my like senior year, like graduating senior year, my first year of college, like this is what I would
All
think
you
about.
thought about?
Like I would like, I'd be in the car with like Xander or like Harry Prevor, rest in peace. And like he doesn't exist. He's not actually dead. He doesn't
He's out of the
he's out
perspective.
of the picture. Or I'd talk to like DePinto or Ty or someone, and like we'd always talk about random shit like this. And they're like small things. Like the two quickest small things that come to mind is like I'll go to the grave thinking that in the 4x8 that they ran where they got all American, like I know, so I was the alternate for that relay. I know for a fact that day if I ran instead of Evan Garrett, I would have ran faster than him. He ran like 159.9, like didn't run that
That was your
well.
senior year.
He was a junior, everyone else was
You
seniors.
were a senior, right?
And I was just like, I feel like I could have ran faster.
157, 158.
I don't regret that. It's just and like that was something I would think about a lot when I was like in spring track season, like the year after. I was like, it'd be like really cool, like if I could like go up to a girl at a bar right now and like tell her that I was an All-American, and I can't because I didn't get that chance. So I think that would help me. But like, and then my spring counties as a senior, I ran the 2 mile, and I had actually run. I had a really like the late part of spring. I'd actually started running really well. I broke 10 at Red Raider, and then the next race I ran like 9:48 or something at North Shore, which was like really good for me. And I was like the 4th seed at counties, and there were a bunch of scratches too. So I can still remember like Ty had the 1 seed and I was seeded 2nd, like in this mile at counties. And I scored the same amount of points as Chris Dawson and finished in 7th, and just ran just like
That's
off,
brutal.
like, terrible race. And like, so I feel like those are if someone like objectively looked at like what I regret, like you would think about like those are 2 races that I would think about. But it's like, I don't think I've ever lost a day of sleep over that, because I think sometimes people confuse like running poorly with like having a regretful race. Like I ran terrible that day, but like I could put myself in that mindset, and I'm like, I felt terrible that day. Like I don't.
Right. You did the best you could on that day.
Like, yeah, like I think I ran like 10:20, like really bad.
Right.
But I was like, I didn't have it that day. So yeah, I mean, but other than like, I don't really regret much, right? Like I feel like all the fun stuff we did, like, because if there's anything in my life I would think about, it would be like, do more fun things. Like I wouldn't regret that I ran 9:48 and didn't run 9:42. Like that means nothing to me now. And I'm sure you agree, but
yes,
I think it matters much more about the experiences you have with your teammate. But I think we did a pretty good job of doing fun things with our teammates. So I don't really have regrets in that.
I don't even know where to start, but I guess we'll start with the locker room. Like those are my fondest memories by far. And I have some, big accolades, but I wouldn't take any, like, I would rather keep the memories of my teammates and having fun than, running fast one day. So when you look back on like getting ready for practice, what are some of the funniest things that stick out to you
I mean, that was definitely like that's agree. That's what I missed the
the
most,
most? Yeah.
just because, like, I mean, now, like, it's just like you still like, I still hang out with like all my high school friends. I still hang out with my college friends. I hang out with my law school friends, but like the hangouts are like different. Like
Very different.
you have to have more time and you have to plan, and
Plan.
like people have other things. But I knew every single day at 2:47, like I was walking out of the locker room with like all my friends. And it was like a lot, like 17, 20 guys in like my senior class. Your class probably had like 15 guys at least, right? So it's like
Right.
I feel like you don't have friend groups that are that big anymore.
Never,
So
never. No. It's like
I just
a third of that.
yeah, so I like that. Just you'd walk in, there'd always be someone that had something, right? Like whether it was like Harry or Will Long or like Michael Sapienza, like just someone would have something going on that like was always like funny and interesting, and you got to
Right.
play off that, and it never got boring. Like we did it fall,
Literally
winter,
every day. Yeah.
summer, and like there was always something new that was making it super fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. Um, One of the big reasons I was excited to have you on is some legendary fade stories for both of us. But what is one that sticks out to you as a legendary fade race?
Can I say other people or my personal fades?
Why don't you do one of each?
Okay. I'd say there's. Do you want to hear a Bill Hebb or a Miles Conforti fade story? Pick one.
I think we Ryan and I have talked about Miles, so let's go with Bill Head.
Okay, Bill Hebb, and this like it's total scumbag. We 4x800 indoors my senior year, and like we talked about a little bit where like Bill was kind of like a fringe runner on our team, where
Right.
like
Wasn't
I
terrible, but yeah.
he never like really like scored many points on like varsity, but he was always in like the varsity training groups, and like he would train with me, and he would train with Will, and he would train with Xander, and like a lot of the distance stuff. But he was just like he was always like our like in cross, he was probably like our eighth man or something like that.
Right.
And sometimes he'd run as like the sixth or seventh guy, depending on the race, and sometimes he'd be in the JV race. But like he got one of his big shots that he got was the 4x800 counties, and that's like I feel like a lot of guys get their
That's
shots
like
like
almost an honor
yeah,
because you could run like decently and still win.
yeah, and that's where my first shot I ever got was the 4x800 junior counties at track. I got lucky because Bill Anderson and Xander were suspended, like because of the whole
Right.
ESSA thing, and it was like me, DePinto, Nick Wasil, and Evan Gary, and I ran like 201.6, like as like the leadoff leg, and PR'd by like 5 seconds, and I wasn't that fast, but I just got in a shot because we needed a body, and like ended up getting all county. But so this was kind of like Bill Hebb's moment for that winters indoors. And it's like me, Bill Hebb, Xander, and I think actually Luke Skorka, who's like 2 years younger than you, 1 year younger than me. And we all run like really well. Like I hand off in first, hand off to Skorka in first. And then I think we mismatched the legs. Like I guess it was intentional. Xander was also running the 4x4 right after. It's like a pretty hard double
Right.
in that situation. And he ran really well, like he always does. And then Bill Hebb was the anchor. And I don't really know what we were doing with Bill
Probably
Hebb.
like front loading it.
Yeah. But and we were going against so East Meadow, their anchor at that time was Michael Grady.
Get
And
outsmarted.
so we gave Bill Hebb, like Xander handed to Bill, and Bill had a massive
Probably like a 10-second lead.
yeah, like at least because like Squirk and I beat the East Meadow legs by like a second or two. Xander definitely beat his leg by like 5 or 6 seconds minimum, and so we gave him a big cushion. And again, I don't. Bill have had this weird thing where like he didn't fade slowly. It was always a brick wall. So like he gets out like first lap 29, second lap 30. I'm like that's a little quick for Bill, but like it's fine. And then like I think he came back in like 72 or something,
Oof.
and just like Grady just like absolutely just destroyed him like the last 200 meters. And it was just like, I've never seen more of a, I'll give Bill Hebb all the credit in the world for like super hard worker, like worked harder than me. When he lined up like to get the baton versus Michael Grady, there was never been a bigger mismatch of talent than Michael Grady had on the county anchor line. And like, it just, and I think also East Meadow, we were competing with them for like they actually mattered like points wise. Cause that was the one where we won by like 1 point when on Evan Gary's 400 and the 4x4. But like he just got absolutely, and he ran even splits through 600. Like it was literally just the last 200. Like it might've been 40 or something, like just
at least
absolutely heinous. And just, you could see him like with the 50-pound weight bag, just, and it was just like, well, I guess we're not winning. Like,
did you guys come in second at least?
We did come in second. So like we got the points, but you only get all county if you come in first in the relay. So it's like, you could run, like, I'm sure there have been times where people have both run under 8 in the 4x8 and like the second team doesn't even
get anything.
So, and like, that was the only race I ran that year. That was the only race he ran and we didn't get anything. So, I mean, but also like, it's a fade story for a reason. Like he's not supposed to just go out and just run a 158.
Just
like
beat Michael Grady. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, we were hoping that he had enough lead that like it would be close, and just it didn't work.
Right. And what sticks out to you as a personal fade story?
I've told some of the one that I ran at counties in the 2 mile. That was like a really bad one. Another really bad one is I ran the mile in a DMR leg my junior year. So that's still when you
run. This is at Yale, right?
Yes. Okay. If you already know what the fade story is, that's a sign of a good. And I'll give myself some credit. The mile in the DMR is like kind of the worst thing ever, because if you get the baton in no man's land, like it's actually like really
miserable. Yeah.
Even if you get it super early, like you have no sense of pacing, and it's a long enough race where if you get out the first 200 or 400 either too fast or too slow, you could just really fuck yourself. And I think it was Greg Vardanov your year?
Yes.
Yeah. So it was like me, Greg Vardanov, Evan Gary, and like someone else. I forget.
That's 4 people already, I think. No, that's 3 people.
And there was one more who someone ran the 12.
Right. You're
and
right.
they all ran like really well. Like they handed off 12 in contention. Greg ran a 50 point at Yale indoors on the relay, and it was like one of the fastest with the fucking Puma tattoo on his like I was like a small child, and like that was a man running on the Yale track. And I remember getting the baton, and like I think I ran okay for the first 800, but it just got to be so bad where I talk a lot about the fade dimension. Where the fade dimension is, you're so tired that you can't see anyone. Like no one actually exists around you because they're not in the right dimension. And DePinto and Tommy Vitucci, shout out Tommy Vitucci, would like tell the story where as I was coming around, they give you like the pity clap. Everyone knows the pity clap.
Right.
You didn't even like I couldn't even acknowledge that they were there, and like I didn't see them. They weren't in the same dimension as me. And I think I ran like 501 or just like a.
What was the first 800?
What
do you think the first 800 was?
I probably got out in at least like
2:15.
Yeah, at least, and then just I don't know, like 2:40 on the way back. Like absolute
2:45
to the track, and just pity claps all the way in. Yeah,
so those are some legendary faders. If you could shout out anyone as the all-time best or worst fader, who comes to mind for that?
Yeah, because so fading is it's weird, because if you just run slow, that's not a fade. It's not
just
you have to have enough promise where people have expectations for you to run well, and then you under deliver. So like if you're a really good runner and you like pause it a little bit, that's not a fade. And if you're a really bad runner and you run like bad, that's not a fade. Miles definitely stands out as like, because he would always come back with like so much promise, because he actually really was like a super talented
first half. Right.
You have to like give him credit for that. I think actually, because I mentioned his name earlier, Tommy Vitucci, like end of his career, he kind of became like a 400 guy. I don't know where that he was like
Him,
cross.
him and Mo Duji. Yeah.
Dude, Duji would have the fucking cinder block legs. But if I can tell one more quick one, Tommy Vitucci
Yes.
famously at Van Cortlandt Park, we ran like the
I remember.
day or something, and the Van Cortlandt ones are crazy. Like there's so many people, and like we're running on like the back hill, and I see he gets like shoved by someone. He was way ahead of me all right. And I see him get shoved, so I kind of like move up, and I shove this guy back, and I'm like, yo, Tom, like, are you good? Like let's go, like let's finish this race. Didn't respond to me. He had no idea where I was. He didn't even notice that someone had shoved him. He was so like, and you can look this up. I think it's a 4K, so like the times aren't like hard to convert. He ran like 1640 or something. Like
For
just
reference, that's like close to 6:30 pace.
yeah, like I think I ran like 1410 or something that day,
Right.
and we were probably even with like 1K to go. And like
Oh my god.
like just like and what's funny is like when you tell that, like you assume that the person's walking, but when you're in the moment, you actually do feel like you're going all out. Like you really do feel
Right.
like you're giving everything you have, and like just somehow like time is distorted, and you just somehow I know DePinto loves that story.
Yes, he'll be happy to hear that when he listens. So one thing we like to do in the summer, and I still play a lot, is basketball. Where are you at in your ball is life days nowadays?
Yeah, I hoop a little bit. There's a law school gym that I hoop at. I played on like a corporate team last summer. That's fun. I mean, I think like right, like you still got to find things to do after track
Right.
that are fun. And we actually like hooped a decent amount while we were still
On track, yeah.
on the team. We go to like the court. Shout out Coach Rob.
Yes.
Like we'd
Oyster Day.
go play. Honestly, I'd like to play more. I feel like I don't
Yep.
um, play enough, and I think also like it's really funny because like people think that like when you're like a senior in high school, like that's when you're like the most like developed. Like and that's like you look at someone like Dawson who is like a fat bitch in like senior year of high
It's
school.
like
Now
yo,
he's like 3 inches taller and like
way
40
stronger.
pounds a muscle. Like I'm trying to like hooping with like high school dogs. Like it's not the same person. Like so
Right.
that's also why I'll give a lot of people credit who like ran poorly or didn't run well, like whatever. It's just like some people just like aren't like Anderson's a really good example. Like he just wasn't that athletic or like that fast in like high school, and like he's just better now. And like some people like it takes longer.
Right. Yeah. People develop at different times. Also, I got into golf 2 years ago. I know you're a big golfer. How
No,
often?
we haven't played yet. That's
I
like I'm
know.
always
Me,
hitting.
you, DePinto. I'm sure more people we can get going for a foursome. But
Yeah, no, my Xander plays and he's really bad. He famously on hole 10 of Bethpage Green, he
mhm.
was shooting 21 and he had not left the tee box.
He was shooting 21. What does that mean?
Yes, he hit like 9 balls in a row out of bounds and just kept reteeing and just hitting them.
Oh, I gotcha. I gotcha.
Just like literally just would not stop reloading and would not stop putting it in the forest.
That's awesome. So where do you usually golf at? Where are you located nowadays? Also,
I mean, so I'm still in Cambridge. I just graduated law school, but I'm here studying.
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm here studying for the bar. So I play like a shitty Boston course, but when I'm in Long Island, I try to play Bethpage. Bethpage is like the hardest tee time in the world.
Oh, it's you had to do like a week in advance. Yeah.
I have alarms set because I'm to always like a week in advance set, and even then you don't get it. All the track boys love to play Caniac Park. I don't know if you've.
Yes, I play there.
It's
Yes.
like one of the worst courses that's ever existed.
Like flat. There's nothing to it. Yeah.
It's almost so bad that it's like it's kind of funny that like it's
Yeah.
that bad. So we like with big Cadillac. We even got Ty Italiano. We played a tournament there with like 20 of us, and Ty Italiano shot an 81 on 9 holes at Cadillac
Nine,
Park with
nine for
no
nine.
balls out of bounds.
That's impressive.
That's very impressive.
Yeah. So yeah, next time you're back, we'll ball, we'll golf, we'll do everything. Get the band back together. But so I actually ran a 400 recently against one of my athletes, and I gave him a fifth, or I had a 15-second head start I came right down to the line and I ran 69. He ran like 54 and beat me. But what do you think you can run in a 400 in a mile right now?
I think so. I think most people would say, I'm I'm trying to think of which one would be harder. The 400 to me, I would get nervous that like I would just tear a hamstring. So
Blow
for the
up.
record,
Yeah.
I have not run like consistently in probably like 4 or 5 years. I feel
Mhm.
like when I was still in college, like I'd go on like 3 month spurts where I'd try to get in shape or like whatever. I think 400, I want to say out of respect to the sixes, I would run 69.9 just to like not run 70.
Yep.
Um, I think the mile definitely sub 6, but
Not by much.
yeah, I would say like 5:45 if I could like
Right.
hide behind.
Ideal conditions. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I don't know if you see Michael Sapienza is now like one of the fittest guys in all of Long Island.
Really?
Yeah, he just goes on like 13-mile runs at like 6:20 pace. And like I forget, he ran like the Brooklyn Marathon. I forget exactly what he ran, but like it was quick. Like we were messaging him like Ty, like you better start like
Yeah, your shit together. Yeah.
obviously he's held like the fittest man in the friend group card for like
Long
7 or 8 years now. But I'm like, he's doing nothing at med school and Sap's training every day. Like you might have to lace him up.
Good for Sat, man. He was definitely not the fittest guy, but that's like what we were saying is some people get it together later in life and it works out. Um, so what do you miss about like training consistently and running every day, other than like the what we talked about earlier?
I mean, yeah, I miss. I think it is somewhat repetitive, but I think I missed the number of people. Like it was just like you could go on like a run and like you could talk to someone in the group and like there was always someone different. It wasn't like now like when I play golf in Boston, I have like one buddy that I golf with and it's me and him every single time. Like
Mhm.
that's great. Like I like the guy, but when we did track shit, it was like 40 different people were always in the mix. And like you and I could go for a long run one day, but then I could run with like Simon and Dale the next day, then run with like Xander and Bill Hebb. And like it was just, there were always so many people in the mix that like it was always, yeah, that's, I missed the most just like having like it's like an ensemble cast of characters where like now I feel like my life's more of like like Sopranos, like main character focused.
Yeah. So we're gonna get cut off by Zoom, but we're gonna pause and come right back and finish up.